More now on our top story. Two missing teens are now considered murder suspects in the deaths of three different people in northern BC. And Aarti has been following this story all day. So, Aarti, can you walk us through the latest on this investigation?
Right. So this was a story, as you mentioned, we've been tracking all day because essentially when the day started, there were two missing persons cases and there were three suspicious deaths. Now that has changed to two suspects who are allegedly on the run, according to RCMP, who say that they have seen the 19 and 18-year-old Kam McLeod and Bryer Schmegelsky in northern Saskatchewan in a different vehicle than the one that was found burned out back on Friday. These are some new images from northern Saskatchewan, surveillance images showing the two men. And RCMP also warned that these two individuals may not look the same that they appear to look in these images or the previous images that have also been circulated, because it appears that they may be fleeing the province and perhaps beyond, given the fact that they are now in northern Saskatchewan, wanted in connection with those three deaths, including the homicide, double homicide of a couple who were BC tourists, Lucas Fowler from Australia. We have images of these two as well, Lucas Fowler and China Dees. They were found dead on July 15th. It's believed that they were killed in between Sunday and Monday of last week. They were also in northern BC. Along the Alaskan Highway is where their vehicle and their bodies were found, not too far from a popular BC tourist destination, a hot springs as well. And so they were traveling together. Their bodies were found on the Monday, and then we know it was on the Friday, in fact, that this burned out vehicle of these two teens who are now suspects was also found. Here's a map that really gives people a good sense of the sort of timeline in regards to this story as well. So if we take a look at all of the markers here, for example, you see Whitehorse is highlighted. That's because McLeod and Schmegelsky were in fact according to friends and family, heading to Whitehorse to look for work. But it was in Dease Lake that they were spotted. They had stopped at a general store there. And then it was 50 kilometers south from there that their vehicle was found burned out. And there was a body found along the highway 2 kilometers south from there. Police have not been able to identify that particular individual yet. There was a sketch that was released, and there is the image of that man there, whose body was found again 2 kilometers south of that burned out vehicle believed to belong to these two teens. And then we saw the other two markers on that map as well, just again so our viewers get a good picture of the geographical situation that we're working with. We know that there was that other location where the couple was found shot dead, and that was again just south of that popular hot springs, also in northern BC. There's about a 470-kilometer distance between those two locations, 5.5, 6-hour drive, depending how fast you're going there. And so that is, of course, how we know police are continuing to connect the dots. They say this is a dynamic, ever-changing investigation, and that they were getting new information just as the days were going on. Even though they initially proceeded with caution, they are now linking these cases and saying that it appears these two teens have fled the province in northern Saskatchewan, also being very clear and saying don't approach them. Let's quickly take a listen to RCMP.
We're asking for the public, if you spot Bryer or Kam, consider them dangerous. We want you very closely to look at their face, recognizing they could have changed their appearance or attempted to change their appearance. They could be wearing different clothing. They could be driving a different vehicle. So we're asking you now, if you have any information in relation to Kam or Bryer's location, to not approach and call 911.
And you know, Jacqueline, they said there that they could be in a different vehicle. In fact, of course, they are in a different vehicle from the one that was found burned out. They are now in a gray Toyota 2011 RAV4. So that, of course, is what police want members of the public to keep an eye out for.
And calling for more information, I mean, they've gotten so much, as you're saying, that it's just coming in and they're trying to keep up with that this has really taken these cases in such a different direction so quickly. But they're still calling for more information even on the man that they haven't named yet, right? The sketch that we have.
Right. They are putting out that public plea saying, listen, yes, we are connecting dots, but we need more information. We need witnesses. For example, there were questions about a man who some witnesses had seen Lucas Fowler, one of the victims of that double homicide, that witnesses had seen him speaking with a man. A sketch had been released of that particular individual. Police at the press conference said they're still looking into that particular situation. situation to see whether or not there are connections, although it seems pretty clear right now that they are looking for these particular suspects in connection with these murders. But they do also want to identify this man who is not yet, we don't know his name, we don't know his age, don't know anything about him. Was he in fact the person who owned this gray vehicle that these two teen suspects are now in? All of that are still questions that certainly people are asking the RCMP, and perhaps they themselves are trying to find out.
And what have we heard from the families involved in this so far?
Yeah, I mean, a very troubling time, one can assume, for everyone, for all of the families who are involved. And we know that CBC News did have a chance to speak with, for example, the father of one of the men who's now considered a suspect. And at that time, he had said that he was very concerned about his sons and that he was urging RCMP and police to find them. In fact, he had said that he had exchanged a text message with his son, and his son has said to him, hey, we're going to be outside of cell phone range, so you might not hear from me for a while. So certainly this turn of events, one would assume, would have come as quite a surprise to him, quite a shock, and would have a huge impact as well. So, but we know RCMP haven't heard from the parents just yet. They made that clear during their press conference, but we know that when it comes to the double homicide, the American woman, her mother, spoke with CBC News earlier in the week, devastated, saying she's dealing with 3 other children who she has now who are trying to contend with the fact that they lost a sister. But also Lucas Fowler, the Australian man, his father is a police officer in Australia. He is now in British Columbia looking to liaise with the investigators on this particular case. And he said, you know, when he spoke yesterday at a press conference, Monday, addressing reporters, he said, I'm not here as an investigator, I am here as a devastated father. And here's a little bit more of what he had to say about his son.
We are just distraught. This has really torn 2 families apart. Our son, Lucas, was having the time of his life travelling the world. He met a beautiful young lady and they teamed up. They were a great pair and they fell in love.
So, I mean, it is a heartbreaking story to hear that, to hear how a father is reacting to that, and certainly also with the mindset of a police investigator too. One can only imagine sort of how he is contending with this information, not to mention, of course, the parents of the mother and the mother also of Lucas Fowler. So a lot of questions still existing and a lot for people to cope with today.
And you touched on this already, but what are the RCMP telling people, you know, if they see these suspects, what should they do?
They were so clear, RCMP, in their press conference. They said, do not approach these men. There was a question, are they armed? And police wouldn't go into any sort of details about what they might be armed with, whether they have shotguns or not. That is not something that police would go into details about, but they were very clear in saying, do not approach these men. They are dangerous. Call 911, give us information, but don't approach them because it's an unpredictable situation here. And so we know that, again, jurisdictions across the country have been put on high alert to look out for these people, as well as people in the area, in BC, in Saskatchewan. One can only imagine how quickly those images are being circulated.
Okay, thank you so much for all of this, Aarti.
You're welcome.